I was 70 when I realized the silence in my home wasn't just a lack of sound. It was a presence of its own. After my husband Arthur passed 5 years ago, I believed I had adapted to solitude. But adapting is not the same as living. There's a difference between learning to breathe underwater and choosing to dive deep. My name is Irene, and I've lived in the same small house on the edge of Oregon's dense pine forests for over 40 years. Arthur and I built our life here, tucked into quiet routines, shared breakfasts, long walks at dusk, the scent of his shaving cream lingering on the bathroom counter. When he was gone, it was as if those scents faded with him. But the habits remained, echoing back to me in the stillness. Each morning I'd make coffee for 2 before remembering. I'd pause halfway to the second mug and place it back in the cabinet. That was my life. Half-poured cups and unfinished thoughts. I painted when I was younger. Before children, before arthritis crept into my knuckles, before the weight of days folded me in. I stopped after our second child was born. It never felt intentional, just something that slipped into the background like so many other things. Arthur used to say my paintings smelled like summer. I never knew what he meant, but I liked hearing it. One afternoon in March, rain gently tapping on the window panes, I opened the narrow hallway closet searching for a forgotten candle. Instead I found my old paint box. Dusty, dented, but still intact. My breath caught in my throat as I opened it. Inside were the tubes of ochre and teal, a few broken brushes, and a folded letter from Arthur, tucked beneath the palette. He had written it in 1991. "If you ever forget who you are," it said, "open this box." It wasn't signed, and I didn't need it to be. That evening, I pulled a stool beside the kitchen counter, taped a piece of old canvas to the wooden board, and just stood there. I didn't know what to paint. I hadn't picked up a brush in decades. But the emptiness in the house didn't feel quite so hollow anymore. The strokes came slowly at first. I painted the pine trees visible through my kitchen window. Then the slant of the afternoon sun on the countertop. Then finally a silhouette of Arthur. Not in detail, just the curve of his posture and the softness I remembered in his shoulders. I cried after I finished it. Not because it was beautiful, it wasn't. But because it felt like I had written something in a language I thought I had forgotten. Like my heart had remembered how to speak. Soon I began painting every day. My dining table turned into a studio. I covered the walls with my attempts. Blues, greens, smudged browns. One morning I painted myself. Not how I looked but how I felt. A woman suspended in mist. Almost invisible but not quite. And when I stepped back, I realized she wasn't sad, she was waiting. Waiting to be seen. Waiting to be felt again. That summer, I took the boldest step I'd taken in years. I submitted one of my paintings, The Forgotten Summer, to a small gallery in Portland. I almost didn't send it. I told myself it was silly. Who would want a painting from a woman who had forgotten how to live? But I sent it anyway. 3 weeks later, I received a handwritten letter from the gallery owner. She said my work made her weep. That it reminded her of her mother. That she wanted to feature it in a collection about rediscovery and aging. I didn't tell my children right away. I don't know why. Maybe I needed this piece of joy to be mine alone for just a while. Maybe I feared they wouldn't understand how something so quiet could feel so loud inside me. When they did find out, at the gallery showing later that fall, they stood quietly in front of the painting. My son reached for my hand. My daughter cried softly. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. They saw me, truly saw me, for the first time in a long while. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't just their mother. I was Irene. A woman who had lived through loss, through silence, through the kind of aching that seeps into your bones. And still, somehow, I had remembered how to speak in color again. Now, at 72, I wake with purpose. I brew only 1 cup of coffee, and it's enough. I still talk to Arthur in the mornings, softly like a whisper that lingers in the steam rising from my mug. I tell him about the paintings, about the gallery, about the time I nearly fell off the stool trying to reach a canvas above the window. I laugh and sometimes I cry. But mostly I just keep painting. Sometimes people think life stops after a certain age. That passion fades. that the hunger for creation or recognition dulls like eyesight. But that's not true. It only becomes quieter. And if you sit still long enough, you can hear it again. So here I am, surrounded by canvases, pine trees swaying just beyond my window, and a life that, though not loud, is no longer silent. And I never thought I'd feel this way at 70.